While thousands of passionate fans poured into the streets of Clearwater, Florida to mourn and pay final respects to wrestling icon Hulk Hogan, the most disturbing and infuriating aspect of the funeral wasn't about who showed up, it was about who didn't. Despite the flood of social media tributes, tear-filled posts, and nostalgic videos released by WWE's top stars and executives in the days following Hogan's death, their physical absence at his funeral painted a picture of insincerity and exposed a devastating truth about WWE's current leadership and its hollow treatment of the legends who built the company. Names like Roman Reigns, Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and Nick Khan were nowhere to be found. These are the individuals who often speak publicly about tradition, family, and legacy, yet they failed to show up when it mattered most. Even more insulting was WWE's pathetic attempt to cover their absence by sending a basic flower arrangement to the service, a gesture that cost less than the catering budget for a single episode of Raw. Meanwhile, real wrestling royalty, retired, struggling, or from rival promotions showed up in person, making enormous personal sacrifices to be present. Legends like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Mick Foley, Ric Flair, Bret Hart, and CM Punk were physically there, showing what loyalty, respect, and love for the business actually looks like. Austin sat quietly in the third row, visibly emotional, while The Rock, despite shooting obligations, chartered a private plane and even served as a pallbearer. Foley, who has spoken publicly about his financial difficulties, still spent what little he had to attend, because, in his own words, Hogan deserved nothing less. Ric Flair, in frail health, had to be wheeled in. Bret Hart, despite their historical beef, gave one of the most heartfelt eulogies ever delivered at a wrestling memorial, emphasizing respect above all else. Wrestlers from AEW such as Jon Moxley and CM Punk risked political backlash just to be present and show solidarity, and international wrestling icons from Japan, Mexico, and Europe came all the way to Florida, despite only brief professional ties to Hogan. They did this because they understood something WWE executives clearly didn't. This was about more than Hogan's controversies. It was about honoring a foundational figure of professional wrestling. Outside the Countryside Baptist Church, the crowd swelled to over 3,000 fans, many in vintage Hulkamania gear, holding up replica championship belts and homemade signs thanking Hogan for being their hero. Some shared memories of meeting him at meet-and-greets, Comic-Cons, or backstage moments where he took the time to talk, take photos, and connect with fans as people. These stories, deeply personal and often life-changing for those who experience them, weren't worth a second of attention from WWE's social media team, which instead chose to push generic marketing content and ignore the historic moment unfolding in Clearwater. No live stream, no official WWE coverage, not even a mention of the emotional fan turnout. Independent journalists, podcasters, and local news crews provided more respectful and detailed coverage than the billion-dollar company Hogan helped build. The contrast was glaring. The worst of it came during The Rock's emotional eulogy, where, without naming names, he directly called out those who stayed home. "Terry knew who his real friends were," he said, fighting back tears. "They're the ones sitting in this church today, not the ones posting from safe distances." The applause that followed echoed through the church and online as fans clipped and shared the moment across every platform, making The Rock's words go viral. The next line cut even deeper. "Terry made mistakes, but he tried to make amends. Those who couldn't find it in their hearts to forgive him don't deserve to call themselves leaders of this business." The room erupted again, with many nodding in silent agreement, eyes wandering toward the empty seats reserved for WWE's top brass. Reports quickly surfaced that WWE's no-show was no accident. A leaked internal memo revealed that WWE executives had intentionally distanced themselves from the funeral, discouraging their talent from attending or publicly associating with Hogan in a high-profile way. Roman Reigns, reportedly willing to go, was advised against it by his management. Triple H, once a vocal supporter of Hogan's return, opted out to avoid difficult questions about WWE's long-term erasure of Hogan from their media. Their absence wasn't just cowardly, it was calculated. The executives monitored social media closely, analyzing fan sentiment like it was a business metric, while never once offering genuine condolences in person. The decision sparked fury in WWE's own locker room. Wrestlers, particularly younger stars who idolized Hogan growing up, were reportedly crushed that they weren't allowed to attend. Some are now contemplating breaking ranks to speak publicly about WWE's cold treatment of the funeral and its legends more broadly. Female talent within the company found themselves torn. Some agreed that Hogan's past was problematic, but others insisted that the funeral should have transcended past mistakes. Many Black wrestlers in particular felt caught in a painful conflict. Some were relieved not to be pressured into honoring a man who once uttered racially offensive remarks, while others believed that showing up would have been a step toward forgiveness and reconciliation. Either way, the company's top-down mandate had stripped them of personal choice, and the resentment is still growing. What made the situation even more revolting was WWE's shameless exploitation of Hogan's death through merchandise. On the very weekend of the funeral, WWE launched a special Hulk Hogan Memorial Collection, featuring a Hulkamania Lives Forever shirt that included photos of the actual funeral setting, photos they didn't even take themselves because they weren't there. Industry sources confirmed that WWE made more money on Hogan merchandise during that weekend than during any equivalent span in the previous 5 years. While fans and legends cried inside the church, WWE counted its profits outside of it. Social media comments under these merch posts were overwhelmingly negative, filled with accusations of hypocrisy, greed, and emotional manipulation. The backlash intensified when it came to light that WWE executives had promised the Hogan family they would attend. Brooke and Nick Hogan had prepared speeches and remarks referencing WWE officials, and even reserved sections in a church specifically for them. Terry Hogan himself had mentioned in his final days that he wanted to see Reigns, Triple H, and other stars at his funeral, figures he felt represented the next generation of the business he helped pioneer. When those seats remained empty, Brooke was seen looking out into the crowd, visibly confused and heartbroken, and family members had to awkwardly revise their prepared remarks. These weren't just missed appearances. They were broken promises, and the emotional toll it took on Hogan's family was clear for everyone in attendance. International coverage only deepened WWE's humiliation. Media outlets in Japan, Mexico, the UK, and across Europe published scathing pieces comparing WWE's absence to the dignified, heartfelt showings by smaller promotions like Impact Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Even independent organizations that had no real connection to Hogan made an effort to send representatives. These were companies operating on fractions of W.